watching the market, watching other leaders, but not wanting to take the jump into that. You, in a way, are leading a movement. You're leading a business. People are going to either want to get behind you or they're not. They don't want to come off icky or cringy to their colleagues, their teammates, their employees. If I didn't run ads and if I didn't have a stream of content and this personal brand, my business would die.
Hey Morgan, welcome to Lazy Entrepreneur Podcast. Glad to have you here today, and I'm excited about the topic that we're going to talk about today because you're mainly on LinkedIn, and I'm also an ambassador of hosting content on LinkedIn, and I know that is something that you do. So yeah, but before we get started, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Christy. I'm Morgan Snyder, and I run ThoughtLeaderToday.com. We help leaders get more visible through social media, as well as just building content around what they're doing and helping them share their story. Generally, I work with C-suite leaders or CEO founder types, and we start with social first because if it's performing well in those public places, then it'll probably resonate with sales enablement, website, and these different pieces that you want to set up inside of the marketing umbrella. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah. I've been doing this for 4.5 years. And before that, I was at a couple different startups on the investor relations team. And the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because I get to rub shoulders with awesome people every day and be integrated into their business and help them solve problems. And it just goes farther than just the social media and content pieces. And so I love the partnership and I love the creativity that happens there.
Right. Yeah. And learning more about their story, right? Like how they started, the challenges they face, and the lessons they've learned. So I'm pretty sure you've learned a lot from those people that you've helped out more than them getting value from the service that you offer, but you're also getting value by getting to know their story and experiences. So how did you get started with this?
One of the healthcare startups I was at, I was tasked with helping them create materials around their investment round. So they were in a Series Seed and they said, who wants to do some of this marketing? Nobody really raised their hand. And they just said, hey, Morgan can do it. So I created some decks and white papers and social media content because these internal meetings weren't exactly translating to the external. And this is true, I think, for a lot of business owners is they have these amazing ideas and they are inspired and they gather all of this great information together. But then when they go to present it and share it and translate it into different things, it doesn't exactly work how they want to or expect to work. And so I feel like back then I was a translator. Even today, I'm kind of like a leadership translator in a way to help them get the right product out of what they think and how they talk about what they're doing. And so after we raised a Series Seed and Series A, and in total, like we raised $22.5 million. And that was just such a fun adventure. The thrill of the hunt, finding these investors, finding these angels and doing all of that. And it was over. And I sort of felt like this letdown. I transitioned into another role, but I was just like, oh, that's kind of sad. I like that part of the startup journey. And so after thinking about that, I actually reached out to a couple of people that I really respected and said, hey, what if we were to do something like this? And this is kind of like the early stages, basically, of Thought Leader Today. I was like, what if we created some social content, or what if we did this? And so I had some really early engagements with that, and eventually just went to my wife and said, I think I'm gonna do this. And surprisingly, she said yes after being on the startup roller coaster with me already. Said, yeah, we can do this. And that was 2021. So yeah, that's how long it's been.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good. Wow, amazing. And so you mainly help C-suites, and you help them, be visible online by sharing who they are, their story, and what they do, their expertise. And I mean, I'm sure you have your own perspective as to why this is important. But
Sure.
When they come to you, what was the reasoning for wanting to get visibility online? Is it because they want to build their own, brand personality, or they just want possibly their target audience to get to know them, like, oh, hey, this is the CEO of this company, we should buy their product or something like that? Yeah, what was the common reasons?
I think the main reasons people are coming to me and my small team are because they want to get the leads and partnerships. That's obviously a big driver of why they come, is they want people to get interested in them and then become customers and clients. Similar to my fundraising story, they might want to get the attention of investors and raise money. Some of them are just looking for earned media opportunities. And in fact, as of like 48 hours ago, one of my founders was on CNN, which is pretty exciting. And so there's a few different use cases, but I would say that they're reluctant about wanting to put themselves out there. A lot of them are like almost everybody on social media. They're sort of lurking in the shadows and watching the market, watching other leaders, but not wanting to take the jump into into the world of thought leadership or sharing content. And so they need someone who will shape their ideas, yes, but also just be there to kind of push them and help them get more comfortable with this idea and let them know that everything is going to be okay as they're sharing their story for the first time, or maybe they've taken a 5-year absence from social media and they're wanting to get reintegrated into that world again. So there's the business case, but there's also just the partnership of getting into content creation, making videos, starting a newsletter, putting those marketing pieces into place for the business. And so all of that sort of encompasses thoughtleadertoday.com and the work that I do. I would say, and this is true in almost every exploratory call, they say, I don't want to do this necessarily. I'm pretty uncomfortable selling and being that in your face about what we're doing. But my response to that is, remember, like, yes, your feelings are valid. And also remember that you, in a way, are leading a movement. Like, you're leading a business. People are going to either want to get behind you or they're not. And so you can do it. You can lead them like Tim Cook. You can lead them like whatever your favorite business leader is, whatever style you want, but you are going to lead them. And in order for that to happen, you have to have that digital presence. Like, you've got to have that brand recognition. You have to have that recognizable picture. You have to have the right headline, all these different things that go into a profile and the materials that the business or the leader are producing. And so I think it's basically like a content ecosystem, or architecting content around this person, and then showing them how to do it and motivating them and telling them that it's a good thing, and showing them some of the results of doing it. And so, yes, they are extremely qualified and they come to me with a lot of amazing experiences and credentials, but one of those missing pieces, which is critical to this, is I understand why this is important. So there's a little bit of education, and that's what I try to do with my own content and the stuff that I make, is showing leaders why it is so important.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think they're kind of reluctant at first? Do you feel like there's imposter syndrome problem there, or are they just not used to creating content, or do they just not have the time to do it, or the budget?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think with the people that I'm talking to, it's not a matter of imposter syndrome, because they have sometimes decades of experience in senior leadership roles, where they're leading global teams, or they've been the head of a team that is in charge of hundreds of employees. I mean, they have these amazing experiences, which almost makes me a little uncomfortable when they come to me, because they're like, I'm looking to you for advice. And I'm like, I'm looking to you for advice on how to direct the affairs of my career. But I think they're reluctant because they want to show up in the right way. Like, they don't want to come off icky or cringy to their colleagues, their teammates, their employees. They're just really concerned about their image. And I think that's true of senior leadership. It's true of everybody. we are very, very hesitant to put ourselves out there because we want to protect it. We want to protect our brand and our reputation. And so they think that if they are developing their brand and they have a personality and they take hard lines on things, that it's going to damage what they've built. And so I think that's where the reluctance comes in. But then once you start to roll that boulder down the hill and they see it's not as painful as they thought it was, then it gets so much easier. But it's the starting is what's really painful for them.
Okay, I see. And so if we have let's say a CEO or CEO listening right now to this episode, and they're interested to become a thought leader, what are the things that they need to prepare for in order to get started with, posting content online? And is being a thought leader just all about posting content online, or is there any other, strategies to it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think everyone has this, most are cynical, but we all have our views of what thought leader means as a phrase. And I use it semi-ironically in my business just because, it's been around for a long time. I think the first time it showed up someplace was like back in the mid 90s. And, today it's almost like a thought leader is someone who sits on LinkedIn all day commenting and posting and taking selfies in front of their Lamborghini or something. And that's, and they're really serious and they're only quoting Harvard Business Review and stuff like that. But to me, a thought leader is just someone who has opinions and, worthy opinions in their space, is interesting. And like I mentioned earlier, just leading a movement in their industry and has something worthwhile to say. And I think we all do have something to say. And so in that case, by that definition, I think we're all thought leaders in one way or another. But yes, it's posting content consistently. And I think that takes two forms: in the short form, both on social media, LinkedIn and X, but having spaces where you are going beyond that little window in the feed where you sort of get lost. And so that's why we have an emphasis on the longer form pieces too, because you get easily distracted in the feed and there's a million things that can happen. And so what we do is we create these newsletters and longer form blog pieces that are 1,000, 2,000 words. And then they can get into deeper topics and really express themselves about a given theme or whatever point we're trying to make. So it's content, it's some of the materials, but just like Nike or Coca-Cola or Patagonia or whatever brand it is, I think each of us should be thinking in those terms as well. Like what do I represent, and do people understand that about me, and do people recognize that about me? And just as a personal use case, and not to put the spotlight on me too much, but when when people are coming to my calls for the first time, I would say in 95% of the cases, the very first thing that people say is, I saw your LinkedIn posts and it made me laugh, or I saw your LinkedIn posts and you wrote something really smart, or I saw your LinkedIn post and then there's like some description there. And I think it's interesting that they don't say necessarily, I can tell that you're, that you have the best business ideas, or like you have the most defined definition of ABC thing, and that's what attracted me, or even that you're the best writer. That rarely anyone says that to me.
Especially with AI nowadays, everybody can be a writer.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, don't get me started on that one. But yeah, it's interesting how they mention funny, and they mention witty, or they mention clever, or there's like these different adjectives that they're using alongside of I saw your content. And to me, that's a reflection of brand. Like that tells me that I have carved out a little portion of this crazy digital landscape and have defined myself. And so that's to me, that is extremely important, because that's what makes you unique in the marketplace, and also makes you memorable. Because at the end of the day, you're seeing thousands of ads and posts and all these things. And like, if I were to ask you at the end of the day, like, what 5 people do you remember seeing today? And you'd be like, oh, I don't know. Same thing for me. If you even asked me to like list a couple, I'd be like, I I don't know if there's a piece of content that really stood out to me or that really taught me something today, because there's just so much. It's like an ocean of noise. And so when I'm building the brand of this executive, like we get down to the really nitty gritty details of the DNA of this person and the archetype, like archetyping what their voice is and how they think about things. And so for me, I'm kind of like this self-deprecating, mildly funny person online. And that is what draws people to me. It turns some people away, which is an important part of having a brand, is you're going to get raging fans, but you're also going to get some people that think, in my case, because I am a little bit of a clown sometimes, that I'm an idiot. So you just have to be okay with that. Like my style is not like the same as yours and vice versa. But that's what makes this whole thing so much fun, is you get to decide what that is and you can commit to that and build everything around that brand so that you are, especially in B2B, so that you are top of mind when the 5% of buyers are ready to go and they've been watching you and looking at you and reading your material. Because that is like, if you're not on that short list, you're not getting the purchase. Like you're not getting those customers because they don't know you. And that's why having that personality is so important, and having that brand is so important. Yeah,
it's all about, standing out from the crowd and don't be boring. Nobody likes boring. Please. Right? Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, posting on LinkedIn and X, and there are so many different social media platforms out there, right, that you can post to. But in your experience, let's say the goal of being a thought leader is to get leads for a B2B business. What platform is the best fit for that?
I think people might have different opinions than me. In B2B, I think it's a conversation between X and LinkedIn, depending on where the business is. I know that there's a lot of SaaS people on X that would say LinkedIn is garbage, but in my humble opinion, as I've worked with people that are in the legal world and the healthcare world, I've got clients that have been in blockchain and mass timber construction and all these different areas. I think the best pound for pound platform within this space is probably LinkedIn, because of the organic and paid opportunities, but also just the availability of people. Like if for example, like if I post something and someone stops by and likes it or comments on it or something like that, I can turn around and message that person right away and they'll probably respond to me. And I have not found that to be the case on different social media platforms in terms of reach, messaging reach, I guess, because for whatever reason, LinkedIn just makes it so easy and it's just acceptable, I guess, to do that. And so when I'm interested in someone, or I've had people do inbound DMs to me, is just makes it really easy to start a conversation on LinkedIn. If I see a piece of your content and you're interesting and or like it resonates with me, it's no big deal if you message me and ask me for something, or I ask you for something or whatever. So the relationship building piece, I think, is really huge on LinkedIn. And like I mentioned with my posting and people saying like, hey, I read this thing about you. You can target your ideal audience on LinkedIn with some paid ads, which has really helped my business for pitches and being able to explain things to my potential customers that way. So I'm a firm believer in LinkedIn, and I don't mean to be cliche or cheesy, but like LinkedIn really has changed my business, my life. I owe so much to this tool, which is it's a weird thing to say. Like when people ask me about what I do for work, and I'm like, I write LinkedIn posts. Like LinkedIn posts have built this whole world that I live in. And I know that it's not the same for everybody else, but between the organic and paid and the messages and the community that is there's so much opportunity, and I think it's a underutilized and underpriced tool for a lot of business owners. They just think it's just a place where people post selfies and ridiculous things like what Disneyland taught me about B2B sales and stuff like that. But it's so much more than that, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And then continuing on with the topic, if a founder or a C-suite is listening to us, what are the things that they need to prepare for? And in terms of content, like stories, what do they need to share to you in order for you to create content online? Like, what are different types of content that they need to share?
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation between the LinkedIn influencer crowds and other people that are similar to me about what you should or shouldn't post. And for me, my lens is always expert-led content first, everything else later. And why should we listen to you? I mean, that's the fundamental question of creating great content is why are people going to look at me and say, hey, Morgan is the best at this, or Morgan is the only voice that I care about when it comes to this. And so whenever I'm writing for an executive, whether it's advertising or any other field that they're in, that's the question I ask every time I get a conversation with them or an interview with them, or they're running through an airport and they send me a voice memo. Is I go, okay, why should we care about this? And if I can't write something that answers that question, it's not good enough yet. And so I would say whether you're working with a writer like me or a marketing team, the question is, why are people going to care about this? And that's if you build everything off of that base, then you're probably going to have amazing content that'll clear the bar of the AI slop and everything else that people are putting on LinkedIn, which doesn't really add any value to the platform. I think there's different tiers of content as well. There's lower tier product milestones, updates type content, which can do well when you see a big a picture, a selfie of like a bunch of people, you're inclined to click on it. So it doesn't mean lower tier doesn't mean, okay, this isn't ever going to work. But lower tier, it's going to get you an okay impression rate, okay metrics, engagement wise. And again, that's milestones, products, updates, like, hey, we just hired this person. Those things are okay, but it doesn't make me want to click into what you're doing. Middle tier is more personal. These are like family things, or this is where the whole I don't want LinkedIn to be Facebook crowd comes to rally in the comments section, and they're like, you shouldn't be posting this. I mean, LinkedIn is just like anything else. It doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter. I want to know you as a person. And so some of these personal things I think would probably be mid-tier. And then with my own clients, I've found that humor and satire and it doesn't have to necessarily be funny content, but just anything that really packs a punch personality-wise, that is going to be your highest performing content. And I've seen this where I've had clients that have done funny posts like, hey, Costco is the best co-working space, or I was at Starbucks and I helped someone get their LinkedIn profile set up, or there's all these different funny ideas that you have where your first inclination, like that voice in your head goes, yeah, you probably shouldn't post something like that. It might hurt your brand. Though all those funny things are actually going to do huge numbers. And I've experimented with this pretty consistently over the last year. Is all of my funny, more sarcastic posts, they do huge numbers. And so I've seen that for myself. And I actually have some writers that I collaborate with on a few different executive accounts, and they've had similar experiences. So I'm not saying everyone has to be like, Conan O'Brien or some funny guy. You don't have to be a stand-up comedian, but I would experiment a little bit more. And I think that's just general advice for anyone is if you're down here in lower tier product updates and milestones, try to move more into personal. And once you have that kind of, you're okay with that, go into some humor, go into some different things that tug on emotional heartstrings type content. Because in the real world, it's sort of everything is gray. Like there's no right or wrong in the sense that everything is debatable and everything is kind of subjective. But on social media, if you want to get a reaction, it can't be like that. You can't hedge your bets or hedge your bets or say things like, I maybe sort of kind of think that this is the case. Like you have to just come out and say things. Like it's all black and white. You have to be sure about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
to get that highest level of engagement, you have to have that confidence, because when you have that confidence, people can't help themselves. They come into the comment section and they want to tell you like, well, actually it's like this, like, and so they that is what is going to start the conversations. And again, to do that, you have to, going back to being comfortable, like you've got to be okay with that. People are going to come and they're going to say things like, and I invite all types of people to come to my comment section. Please keep coming back, because the more you come back and comment, the more engagement I get, the greater reach I get, and the greater chance that like increasing my surface area and having CEOs come into my DMs and say, I don't know how I found you, but I do. And I love what you wrote. And so it's all part of the game. In the end, this is just a huge game we're playing on social media, and you can participate in it and do these things or not. Like it's.
That's good. Good. So let's say, so you've helped C-suites get, leads from LinkedIn, and let's say, they post something, or you post something. I don't know if you're the one posting it. You post something on the LinkedIn account, and then somebody saw the post and they really liked it, and then they message your client and say, hey, I'm really interested in your product and services. Now, are they the one who's gonna talk to that lead, or do they pass that on to another person? Because I think that's also kind of like one of my challenges, I guess, because I use LinkedIn a lot and we do LinkedIn outreach as well. But when it comes to sales, I don't do the sales part, and I'm pretty sure the people that you've worked with, they don't really do the sales part. They have their own sales team, right? So have you had that kind of experience where somebody wanted, to buy their product and they wanted to talk to the C-suite? How is that being handled?
Yeah, I would say it kind of depends on who that person is on the inbound, because if they are a high value relationship, meaning C-suite to C-suite or VP to C-suite or something like that, where, hey, this actually would be better for the CEO founder to handle themselves and to show that extra level of care, then yes. But if that's not the case, then we have a system where we basically template out a few different message types and say, hey, if this kind of a person shows up, this is the message we go with, or this person over here. So we design a little bit of that. But yeah, the handoff is pretty natural. I would say that people don't get offended when the CEO founder is like, hey, I'm so excited you reached out. I love the fact that you love the content. We work really hard on, you can talk about describe your content there. And then you can say, I'm going to have you talk with so-and-so before you talk to me. And that just sets the expectation that, oh yeah, like it helps the person realize the CEO is super busy. Like they don't have time to shoot the breeze with you for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And by saying it that way, it's not shutting the door on them either, because they know that they're being taken care of. And that's what anyone wants. At the end of the day, they don't really care that they're getting the CEO's attention. They just want to know that they're going to be taken care of, that they're appreciated, and that they see this as a really great conversation for them. And on the other side of that, when, and this is probably something you've experienced a little bit too, you get like so many DMs and sales pitches and spam and stuff in the DMs. And so we just are really careful and very cognizant of our clients' time that way too. And so when our clients will come to us and say like, oh, do I take these Zoom calls? Do I take these coffee chats? Do I engage? Because I want to build more followers and I want to. And it's like, wow, I know that it's crazy to look through your DMs and see this many messages, but do not feel any pressure or anything like that to take some of these conversations, because your time, like the best use case for your time is bringing value back to your business. And if this is a low leverage activity, you don't do it. And in a similar way, like sitting in front of a Google Doc for my clients and thinking about what ideas to write about content, like that's not what they should be putting their time into. So any way that we can direct their focus to the best high value relationships, that's what we're going to do. And whether that's DMs, comments, incoming emails, and things like that is we just look at titles, and the titles tell us a lot as kind of like the baseline, but then we do a little bit of digging into who they are to make sure that it's the best use of their time.
Yeah, so. I agree. Okay, for my last question as we wrap up, what do you think CEOs and founders would lose if they don't post content online as a thought leader?
Yeah, I would say if you're the CEO of a Fortune 100 company and you have a million different priorities, I don't know if it really matters anymore, because you have a PR team, you've got a marketing team, you have all these people that are doing it for you. I don't know how much Tim Cook loses sleep overnight based on the content that he puts out on X, or they have a new CEO now, I forget his name, but anyway, my point is, like, if you're one of those people, I don't know if you're losing a ton, but for the majority of us, all the rest of us that aren't the CEO of these major companies, I think you're losing talent. I think you're losing customers. I think you're losing the awareness and just like the brand building opportunities and the cascading effects of that. Some of the earned media opportunities that are tied into brand. I think that when you're not there and you're not leading that narrative, other people are doing it for you. The competitors are doing it for you. And I think even worse than that, silence is a tell as well. Like if you're so quiet and you have no presence and no one is there to kind of be the voice and be the face of your brand, you're communicating something to your customers. Like you're there. And again, it's up then if you're quiet, then it's up to the customers to then interpret what that means. And so are they quiet because they don't know what they're doing? Is it quiet because their product's not really that good? Are they quiet because, and so they think and draw certain conclusions about you when you are not leading the charge on your content. And so I think it's a variety of all of those things. If you are a growing company, it's a necessary evil that you're online and that you're participating in some way. Because if you're not, then you're basically relying on relationships and referrals to grow your business, which is not a scalable way to grow a business. Like, it's just not. Like you can't say, oh, we're doing great because our friends love us and our clients love us and they're always going to refer us to the business. And no, they're not. That's not a reliable way to do things. And so better to have a content system and architecture around your senior leadership team that is driving people to your website, driving people to your blog and all these places where you have that content in place. And that's the only sustainable way. Like if I didn't run ads and if I didn't have a stream of content and this personal brand, my business would die. Over time, it would die. It might make it for the next year, but if I'm thinking 3, 5, 10 years out, where I didn't have, and right now I'm basically pitching my business every day because of my content and because of my ads. If I didn't have that, then eventually it would be heavily reduced or die. And so I would just think of content as a repeatable system that you can then leverage to get that talent, to get those leads, and to make sure that you are, you are there in your space and you're top of mind for your buyers. But all those things I think make this a worthwhile investment. Right. And whether it's with me or anybody else, I'm just saying, like, you've got to be doing it. Like you just have to be doing it in order for you to have that long-term result that you want. Right,
exactly. Cool. All right. So for my very last question, I mean, this is not actually my question. This is a question that was left by my previous guest. And so that question is, with all of the tools available to a leader, how would you rank AI among those tools?
Ooh, this is a hard question for me. I know I've been talking a lot, and you've been so good at just listening to me and asking me questions. So I'll try not to make this super long. But I think AI is a double-edged sword. As someone that uses AI all the time, it makes it amazing to do research. It, like, finding things and asking questions about. I mean, especially for me, I'm involved in so many different industries, in weird ways, and so I'm constantly using AI to find out this information and get educated as fast as possible. And then when it comes to structuring what I want to write about someone or how I'm going to approach a given engagement with an executive. Sometimes it's helpful to have the AI there to again, prompt it and find out and discover. But there's another part of AI that makes me uncomfortable and a little bit scared too, is just because you can do something as far as speed and developing ideas and things like that, it just takes away from your humanity a little bit, that you are the one working through the problem. You're the one solving it. You're the one communicating it. And I don't ever, I mean, I hope, ask me in a few years and maybe this will be different, but I don't ever want to turn my thinking and my brain over to AI entirely. And I don't want to become another bot in the machine. So I'm very, very grateful. So you asked me like, how important is it? Extremely important. But at the same time, I want to be careful and I want to be deliberate in how I use it, because speed just for speed's sake is kind of a dangerous thing. Like I have a certain amount of hours that I'm working every day. I want to make sure that I'm staying with my family. I'm staying connected to the things that I love to do, and not thinking like, oh, now I have AI, so I can give an extra few hours, or I could give 25, I can add 25% more work, because so it just becomes kind of a dangerous thing as a business owner, because you're like, oh, I could be getting so far ahead, or I could be doing this and I could be doing this. And like, yes, you have a million different options now, but which one is the right one? And I think that's a human thinking through and figuring that out by themselves. And so I want to maintain my humanity. And I've had so many conversations in the last month or so with different clients about this, is the use of AI in their business. And so for me, incredibly important, but I want to make sure that I have the right guardrails so I continue to make good decisions, and also don't turn my thinking over to Claude or Gemini or whatever.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Use it with discernment, right?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. And I think for most people, I think they love collaborating with AI, but they're not really collaborating with an actual human being, So, and for me as an extrovert, I'm a very social person. I love talking to people. Like I love just throwing ideas back and forth. And with AI, whenever I do that with AI, yes, it's faster, but the engagement is not there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, the relationship building is not there too, especially, if you have people that you can collaborate with, like your team members or your friend or your spouse, right? So that's why my biggest pet peeve nowadays is that when I ask somebody a question and there's not a lot of them, and then they answer me, I don't know, just ask ChatGPT. It's like, dude, you're the human being. I'm asking you. I know that I can ask ChatGPT, but I want to talk to a human being,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, what question do you want to leave for my next guest?
I think one question that I have for everybody that I interact with is how do you maintain your sanity in building the business, and what is most helpful for you? Like what's that one habit that you have that brings outsized returns to your life? Your business is important, but to your life too, so that you stay true to who you are and enjoy your life. And I think that's something we don't really, like anytime you're at a networking event or some sort of business meeting, like, oh, how are things going? And everyone, of course, what do they say? Oh, it's so great. Oh, it's amazing. Like we're growing at X amount and we've done this. And it's like, okay, great. That's the show of it. Right. But like, tell me how you're doing. Like, tell me what you're working on. And so I like to ask people about their habits and how those habits affect their overall well-being, because I find myself sometimes it's like 10:30 at night and I'm still writing things and I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? So what habits do I need to have? And I love learning that about people.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Morgan. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn, and also just thoughtleadertoday.com is our website. And if you have any questions, I'm basically camping out on LinkedIn, and so if you find me there and you shoot me a DM, I'll respond. So I I love having combos there.
Yeah, that's why we're here today, because I reached out, you responded, and we had a call, and then there's another call.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, LinkedIn is awesome. I get to meet a lot of awesome people. So thank you so much, Morgan, for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.